Hey, Chief.
I'll call the meeting to order, then I'll mention it. Okay. Well, people have,
What's up, Alderman Cobb?
What's up, Fred? Hey, Danita.
Hello.
We got a quick
Did I
meeting.
see Fafford?
Hello there.
Hey, Fafford.
okay, there we go. Oh, thank you for reminding me of that. Let me see what I did with it. Yeah, I have it right here.
I'll go some more when I'm done.
No.
Okay. Hopefully everybody's here. Let me count my council members. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I'm missing somebody. I'm missing Tall.
Crawford.
Okay, Tall is here. Crawford's here. O'Brien. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay. I think we have everybody. Okay. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I want to thank everybody, first of all, for your patience and your flexibility. COVID-19 is challenging us to do things differently, and we know people do not like change. People resist change, they're scared of change, and I'm really proud of some of you in particular that I know get a little intimidated by technology. You all have done a really good job of making those adjustments, so I just want you to know that I really do appreciate the efforts. I want to thank our technical team as well, Pete and Jasmine and Wade. They've been doing a lot of work to try to tweak things and make it right. As we know, no one has had to govern in a pandemic before, none of us. And we are doing our best to make sure that we provide a way for the public to still have access and a way for us to still be able to continue moving forward with our city's business. We had budget meeting, we've had license and franchise, so we're continuing to get things done for the city. And I just want to thank you all for that. We don't have anyone for prayer. Anjanita?
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't have anybody, right?
No.
Okay, I'm going to say a quick
quick
prayer. Okay, if we all can bow our heads. Lord, we come before you this evening and we ask, Lord, that you will forgive us from the sins of our minds, our hearts, our hands, and our feet, things that we have done that have been offensive to others or especially offensive to you. Lord, we ask that you will bless our union tonight. We are learning to govern in a different way. I thank you, Lord, for giving our team and our council the courage to be able to do this. It's challenging at first, but through you, we can do all things because you strengthen us. And so I thank you for the teamwork that has taken place to be able to govern in a new way with new technology. I ask, Lord, that you will bless our city, the city of Kankakee. We all love this city, and we all come to work every day to serve the people in this city. And I would ask that you will bless us tonight, that we will do your work for your people, and that you will continue to keep us safe from harm, danger that we can see and danger that we don't see, such as this virus. That you will protect us and give us the guidance and the leadership to continue to make good decisions for the community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay. We have the Pledge of Allegiance next. So who wants to, Alderwoman Swanson, you want to start us off?
Sure.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands one nation, liberty, justice for all. Wow.
Thank you.
That was pretty bad. We're going to have to practice that.
We got through it. We don't have to be perfect. We got it done. We don't have to be perfect. Okay, moving on to public comments. So Jasmine just informed me YouTube is not allowing us to show our meeting. So the meeting is viewable to the public by the City of Kankakee website, so through internet access, and then of course through Comcast Channel 4, which is our government access channel. We'll see if we are able to upload the video to YouTube later in the evening or tomorrow. But for the public, City of Kankakee website through the internet, of course, and then the Comcast Channel 4, which is our government access channel. So the public was allowed to submit comments, and under public comments, it says, due to COVID-19 and social distancing, the City of Kankakee has modified the procedures in order to accept public comments. Please submit all public comments to publiccomment@citykankakee-il.gov no later than 3 p.m. on Monday, April 20th. We did have one comment come in from Melinda Lester, who lives at 312 West Stone Street in Kankakee, to whom it may concern. I live at the above address and on the property line between myself and Kankakee, and there is a tree. It belongs to the City of Kankakee. I have lived here for over 5 years, and this tree has been a problem. If one of the branches falls off, the whole street will be down electric because it is sitting on the electric line. I will be willing to split the cost if you are willing to cut it down, as well as make payments to the city. I am reasonable, just want the tree down. I have continued to contact Tyler on this matter, never received a call back. Your attention to this matter is greatly appreciated, Melinda Lester. So that's the only comment that we had. We'll follow up, of course, regarding the tree. Who's on, is Dennis on the line? Pete, you're on the line. If you can make a note of that to follow up with DPW.
What's the address?
312 West Stone Street.
Okay.
Yep. Ward 5. Okay, we will move on to roll call, please. City Council.
Hatter,
Present.
Brown,
Here.
Curtis,
Present.
Cobb,
Here.
Lewis, here. Paul,
Present.
Stafford,
Here.
Swanson, here. Crawford,
Present.
Osinga,
Present.
O'Brien,
Here.
Gall, here. Malone Marshall, present. Cruz,
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. Moving on to department heads, please.
Cosman,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Kubal, present. McGrath, Okay, thank you. Shields. Tigosh.
Present.
Nelson.
Here.
Bertrand.
Present.
Schmidt.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Ellison.
Here.
Brewer Watson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. And I just want to let the record reflect, Byrd is also present, correct? Yeah, Byrd is also present.
I'm here, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 6, the minutes from Monday, April 6th. Wait, may I have a motion to approve those minutes? If you could all, first of all, mute your phones when you are not talking. It'll help with background noise to minimize the background noise. And if you can raise your hand so I can visually see you. Alderman Osinga, you have the floor.
Motion to approve the minutes, Mayor.
Motion made by Alderman Osinga. Alderman Crawford.
I will second that motion.
Okay, seconded by Alderman Crawford. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Moving on to item 7, we have petitions. Item A, PB 2020-2-3, ordinance approving a zoning text amendment to reduce the setback requirements for adult use cannabis craft growers in the city of Kankakee. I'm going to defer to Mike Hoffman, our planner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as you recall, earlier this year, we adopted some new zoning regulations to address adult use cannabis facilities, and there were various separation requirements from different uses put into that ordinance. So there's a 500-foot separation from schools. The draft ordinance for the existing ordinance for adult use craft growers was a 1,500-foot separation from residentially zoned property. That actually came out of a model Illinois Municipal League ordinance, but it is not required by the state statute. There are some maps in your packet that kind of show you what that looked like when we originally mapped it. When we originally did it, we thought it was going to be okay, but when we started looking at it closer and we started getting some people interested in craft growers, we found out that that was going to be problematic. For among other reasons, it pretty much excluded everything in the Eastgate Industrial Park, which actually seems like a pretty reasonable location to locate one of these types of facilities. And so we had proposed to amend the ordinance to reduce the setback from residentially zoned property from 1,500 feet to 400 feet. That would open up significant areas in the community where someone could still apply for a conditional use for this type of operation, craft growing operation. So this first item on your agenda is to approve that amendment to the text of the ordinance to reduce that separation requirement from residential property from 1,500 feet to 400 feet.
Okay, may I have a motion to suspend the rules that would interfere with the passage of the ordinance? Alderman Brown.
I make the motion to suspend the rules that interfere with the passage of this ordinance.
Okay. Motion made by Alderman Brown. May I have a second? Alderwoman Lewis.
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Lewis. Roll call.
Chatter.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Curtis.
I need to abstain on this.
Cobb.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Stafford.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Osinga.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Gall. Aye. Malone Marshall.
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
Motion carries. May I have a motion to place the ordinance on final passage? Alderman Brown.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Brown. Alderwoman Lewis.
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Lewis. Any discussion on this item?
Yes.
Alderman Crawford, you have the floor.
Yes, Mike, what is the state requirement on the distance? Is there any requirements there?
In terms of separation from residential, there is not. There is a requirement in state statute that craft growers be 1,500 feet apart, but there is no specific requirement in state statute regarding separation from residential property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Crawford. Any other discussion? Alderman Brown?
I just want to state that basically the residential they're talking about is the trailer park, and I think it's about 12 trailers. Just want to let that for the record.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Tatter,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Abstain?
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Spafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Olsinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall,
She needs to unmute.
Sorry, aye. Okay, thank you. Malone Marshall,
Aye.
approved.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
Motion carries. Moving on to item B, which relates to item A, we have PB 2020-2-2, ordinance issuing a conditional use permit for an adult use craft grower facility in an I-2 zoning district located at 2409 Eastgate Industrial Parkway in the city of Kankakee, and this is requested by Matt Alexander. Mike Hoffman, I'll let you speak a little bit about that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is an existing building that Mr. Alexander wants to open up a craft growing facility. We did have a public hearing for this by the planning board. They recommended approval with several conditions. As I said, this is an existing building. Mr. Alexander actually provided letters from some of the tenants in his building as well as adjacent buildings in support of the application. The conditions recommended by the planning board, including essentially making sure there wouldn't be any outdoor smells or odor emissions from the property, that they would get a conditional use get a permit from the state of Illinois to operate this facility, and that they provide us a copy of that. And then obviously it was contingent on you guys doing the action you just did, which was to reduce the setback because as Alderman Brown mentioned, there is a trailer park just south of this that is zone residential. It is about 450 feet away from this property, so it meets the new provisions that we just approved recently.
Okay. All right, Mike, thank you. May I have a motion to place the ordinance on final, we're suspending the rules, right? Anjanita? Motion to suspend the rules that would interfere with the passage of the ordinance. Thanks, Anjanita. Alderman Tatter? Motion made by Alderman Tatter. May I have a second? Alderman Brown?
Second the motion.
Seconded by Alderman Brown. Roll call.
Tatter,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Abstain?
thank you. Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis, Paul,
Aye.
thank you. Spafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Olsinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
approved.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
Motion carries. May I have a motion to place this ordinance on final passage? Alderman Tatter?
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion made by Alderman Tatter. Alderman Brown?
Second the motion.
Seconded by Alderman Brown. Any discussion on this item? Roll call.
Tatter,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Abstain. I just want to, for the record, I do not represent this deal, but the applicant is a client of my business, so that's why I'm abstaining.
thank you. Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
Motion carries. Item 8, under communications, we don't have any items for discussion tonight. Item 9A, standing committee reports. We have a license and franchise committee that met on Thursday, April 9th, and I will turn that over to Chairman Curtis. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. We did hold the license and franchise meeting last Thursday via Zoom, and happy that we were able to have a quorum with enough members there to discuss this. We had a lengthy discussion, and the minutes reflect about 21 items that the committee discussed with the new liquor ordinance that was then. Those comments, suggestions, recommendations were presented to the mayor and legal counsel. They quickly turned around a response addressing many of the issues that the committee had inquired about, and with the recommendation, I did submit that to each committee member for review. A couple of the people have gotten back to me and still waiting on a few others. I know the effort is to keep this moving forward quickly, so if we can have some discussions, each of you wanted back, we will forward those to legal if there's any issues or concerns that need to be further addressed.
Can you make sure you forward it to me as well, Alderman Curtis?
Yes, I believe you've been on all those emails, I believe. So
Thank you.
I've just been sending them out individually so we don't violate the Open Meetings Act.
Yep.
So,
Okay. All right. Thank you for that report and update. Item number 10, report of officers, City of Kankakee. May I have a motion to approve the bills? Looking for a hand. Alderman Fafford.
Your Honor, I move we approve the report of officers, place the money in the proper accounts, and pay the bills in the amount of $418,009.89.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Fafford, Alderwoman Lewis.
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Lewis. Any discussion on the bills? Okay, roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Alderman Osinga.
Yes, Mayor, as I'm looking at the bills, excuse me, I see Schuyler Avenue property bill 76308 is $6,000. Normally that's around $2,000 if they send us some belated bills here.
Yes, Elizabeth, that was for several months, correct?
That's correct, Mayor. It was for February, March, and April rents.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion on the bills? Okay, roll call, please.
Better,
aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Paul,
No.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
No.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye, although I abstain on check number 76293 for $50 to Homestar Title Company.
thank you.
Thank you.
Gall,
Aye, but I would like to, I have a conflict, would like to abstain on check number 76306, check number 3007, and check number 1177.
I'm sorry, what's the second one?
3007.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
12 ayes, 0 nays. I'm sorry, 12 ayes, 2 nays, 0 abstentions.
Motion carries. And then item B for the Community Development Agency, may I have a motion to approve those bills? Alderwoman Swanson.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the Community Development Agency bills in the amount of $179,280.82.
Okay, thank you. Motion made by Alderwoman Swanson. Do I have a second on those bills? Alderman Tedder?
Second, Your Honor.
Seconded by Alderman Tedder. Any discussion on those bills? Okay, roll call, please.
Tedder, Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Paul,
No.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
No.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Call,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
12 ayes, 2 nays.
Motion carries. Item 11 under unfinished business, we don't have anything for tonight. Item 12 under new business, A, we have an ordinance declaring certain property surplus of the city of Kankakee, the Kankakee Fire Department, and authorizing the sale thereof. I'll go ahead and do a motion to suspend the rules that would interfere with the passage of the ordinance. May I have that motion? Alderman Brown.
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules and interfere with the passage of this ordinance.
Motion made by Alderman Brown. Alderman Osinga.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderman Osinga. Roll call, please.
Tedder,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. May I have a motion to place the ordinance on final passage? Alderman Brown.
I make that motion.
Motion made by Alderman Brown. Alderman Osinga.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Osinga. Any discussion on this item? I am going to defer to Chief Schultz very quickly. I saw you on here, Chief.
Yep.
Okay. You there, Chief?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So yep. So thank you, Mayor. This is that 2008 Ford ambulance that we took out of service last year. We have our new one in service now, so this one's time to surplus this. It's got like 24,000 plus hours on it, and it wasn't dependable last year, so we're going to try to make the sale there.
And to put that in context, this one has 24,000 hours. What's the average for an ambulance?
Probably half that for what we usually keep them for,
12.
or what we should work. Yes.
Okay, so this is a 2008 ambulance. All right, any discussion? Alderman Osinga.
Yes, is this the ambulance that we've had that we've had problems with and hasn't started?
Correct. Yeah, or it's been shutting off. Plus, there's numerous other issues. We took it to 7 different mechanics, and we couldn't get anybody to really replicate the problem or figure out what's wrong with it. So we actually took it out of service late last summer due to some issues with that. So
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Tedder,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Item B is ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 2, Section 10-27 of the Municipal Code of the City of Kankakee, Illinois. Orders authorized when a local state of emergency is declared by the mayor. May I have a motion to suspend the rules that would interfere with the passage of this ordinance? Alderman Tedder.
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion made by Alderman Tedder. Alderman O'Brien, were you, I'm sorry, Alderman O'Brien?
Yes. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
seconded by Alderman O'Brien. Roll call.
Tedder,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien, O'Brien,
Aye.
thank you. Gall,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay. May I have a motion to place the ordinance on final passage? Alderman Tedder.
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion made by Alderman Tedder. Alderman
Second.
O'Brien. Seconded by
Second.
Alderman O'Brien. Any discussion on this item? I'll just
Mayor?
let you all
Yes.
know that this was approved at the last city council meeting. We had to revise our ordinance from, I think it was from the 1970s. Mike McGrath, correct me if I'm incorrect. Our ordinance from the 1970s, we expanded that definition to include a pandemic that we're living on right now. And then this authorizes the mayor to make emergency expenditures. Elizabeth and I established a system that any emergency purchases would be added to the bills for city council in the packet. Alderman O'Brien, when we talked about it in budget, asked that we just amend it to formalize that process, that we put the amendment in the ordinance stating that the mayor will report those expenditures at the next city council meeting. Alderman O'Brien, did you have anything to add as the budget chair?
No, that's perfectly summarized.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Alderman Crawford.
Yes, is this something that we have to vote on the 5th, or following the 15th and the 30th of every month?
That's the declaration that's later in the agenda. This is just amending the ordinance so that if I make an emergency purchase, it's formalizing the process that Elizabeth and I established to make sure that it's added on the list of bills. So it comes before city council.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, roll call.
Tedder,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Item C, Budget and Annual Appropriations Ordinance for the Kankakee Environmental Services Utility, Kankakee County, Illinois, for the fiscal year 2021. May I have a motion to suspend the rules that would interfere with the passage of the ordinance? Alderwoman Swanson.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Alderwoman Swanson. Alderwoman Gall,
I'll second.
seconded by Alderwoman Gall. Roll call, please.
Tedder,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, our clerk needs to step away for just a minute. Okay. So while we're waiting for her to come back, we'll place it on final passage. Pete, did you want to briefly review this? Went through the ESU board.
Yeah, Mayor.
There you
With
are.
Yeah, we went through some really detailed work on this project. Thank you to the entire team. At first, we had to take some money out of capital and some other areas just to balance. But thankfully for the staff and all the work that Elizabeth and her team were able to find some insurance issues that we could fine tune a little bit. We were able to identify that Karma's 5% that they were requesting was actually dropped down. With that being said, the total utility expense is going to be $20,159,624. Our revenue is going to be $20,314,650, which gives us a positive balance of $155,026.
Thank you, Pete. I'll just add that I know that we have been very diligent in working to make sure that we utilize our monies in the most efficient way, that we maximize our revenues. And it's a concern for the council about MFT funds, so I did have the SALT program put under the ESU budget to take some relief off of our MFT account. And then I'll just go ahead and defer to Elizabeth for anything she may want to add.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a great team effort. Pete and I worked hard at this toward the end, getting the last details in place. We did find, I just wanted to mention to the entire council that the Karma increase is $138,000. We had budgeted more than that based off of preliminary estimates, and it came in at 138. So we had some expenditure savings there within the budget. Like Pete said, we're able to fine tune a little bit on salaries, some taxes, IMRF expense, and things of that sort. And we're able to come up with this budget.
All right, thank you. Clerk is back?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have a motion to place the ordinance on final passage, please. Alderwoman Swanson.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion made by Alderwoman Swanson. Alderwoman Gall.
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Gall. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Tatter,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall,
Aye.
Malone Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Item D pertains to a special ordinance authorizing the seating of private activity bonding authority with the Will Kankakee Regional Development Authority. I'm going to defer to Mike McGrath. This is referring to our bond seating.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. This comes up yearly. I remember it came up last year where a group solicited to see if they can get some of the city's volume cap. As you know, the Internal Revenue Code, they set how much volume the city can go out and bond every year. And if you don't go up to that amount, or if you have extra, it's called the volume cap. And you're able to actually transfer that to other agencies to be used in by local governments. That ordinance from this group, I've reached out to them 3 times and haven't heard back from them to see what they'd be willing to pay for the volume cap. It wouldn't be a significant amount, but there's really no reason to give it for free. You can group your volume cap for up to 3 years, and then bundle it and then sell it on the open market, so to speak, to any other group that wants to use it in a similar fashion. So it would actually be my recommendation to table this until we hear back from this group to see what, if anything, they'd be willing to pay for your volume cap. Again, it's not going to be significant. It's probably going to be under $10,000. But to go ahead and just approve the ordinance as it's been presented, you would be transferring what you have in excess, and the city wouldn't receive anything for that.
Yeah, and last year we did receive a small amount. Alderman Curtis? Alderman Curtis?
Yeah, I just had a question or comment. I know in the past, and this is going back several years, probably the early 2000s, but we kind of had a reciprocal agreement with Will County that if we have a project in Kankakee County, we can go to them for some additional funding if need be for a manufacturing plant, or somebody might be looking to build in our area. So I wouldn't want to ruin that relationship if we ever need those dollars in the future from them.
Yeah, I don't think we're ruining the relationship.
Yeah, I just wouldn't, I would table it for a short time, one meeting, just to see if we get some feedback from them. I think your point, Alderman Curtis, in the future, you don't know if they have any extra volume cap transferred back to the city of Kankakee if it's needed. But again, it's good to have the relationship, and it's good to use this system. But if your city can get a little bit of revenue from it, that would be our suggestion.
Okay. All right, so if there are no objections, we'll table it. As Mike has stated, he has reached out 3 times. Our goal is to get a response back from them before the next meeting, and then we'll put it back on the agenda. All right. Item E, we have a recommendation to award bid to R&R Inc. in the amount of $72,721.50 for the alley drainage and pavement improvement project for the alley between 7th and 8th Avenues. I'm going to defer to Neil on this. This is a project in the 4th Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. We held the bid opening for this project at City Hall. It was not open to the contractors due to the current COVID-19 restrictions, but we had 4 bidders on this project. The low bidder being R&R Incorporated out of Bradley. We also had Kinky Valley Construction, Oakwood Enterprises, and Gallagher Asphalt. The bids ranged from the low bid was $72,000 up to $115,000, but the lowest 3 bids were from $72,000 to $82,000, and our estimate of cost was $78,000 for this project, and we are recommending award.
Motion to approve the recommendation, Alderwoman Swanson.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Alderwoman Swanson. Alderman Thafford.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Thafford. Any discussion on this item? Alderman Crawford.
Yes, Mayor. Is this coming out of motor fuel tax, or is this coming out of general funds, or?
The project, this is what the 4th Ward elected to use most of their MFT funds on this year.
Okay, thank you.
Neil, is this one of the projects where ESU is doing part of it because of the drainage infrastructure?
Correct. There's about $16,000 out of this bid that's attributed to storm sewer that ESU will be likely transferring back into the general or MFT fund, however that's typically done. But yes, there is some reconciliation that will have to be done upon completion of the project.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Any other discussion? Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alderman Crawford. Roll call.
Better,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Olsinger,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall. Aye. Malone Marshall. Aye. Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. And Neil, for the record, this became pressing because of the business that moved over there, correct?
Correct. The new business, Evergreens, has had issues with drainage in the alley as well as water coming into their building, which has greatly affected their operations. So this is why the 4th Ward prioritized this project, and I've been in contact with the business owner, so he's fully aware of the status of the project and satisfied with progress of the project. So,
Okay. Thank you, Neil. Mike Hoffman, did you have anything?
No, I was just gonna second the fact that this is a new operation there, and actually making sure that it is clean and safe is really critical because we're growing produce there. So this is a very needed improvement.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman Fafford, was that you? Yep.
Yes. When do we expect this project to begin?
So there's two gas mains that need to be lowered on north side of Jeffrey, a 16-inch and a 7-inch gas main. We've been coordinating with NICOR for that. Normally that wouldn't be as big of a deal, but however, given the current measures put in place with COVID-19, they haven't been able to commit to any sort of definite immediate time frame. They're thinking middle of the summer. I already communicated that to the business owner, so they're fully aware of what our timeline is, and we're obviously going to push NICOR to expedite that as much as possible.
And I certainly would be willing to work with you and Alderwoman Swanson to push them to expedite, Alderman Fafford.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Item F, recommendation to accept preliminary construction engineering services agreement for NFT funds from Pigosh Engineering in the amount of $29,944.36. This pertains to drainage and pavement improvements on Francine Drive from Webster Circle East to East Notre Dame Street. May I have a motion to approve that recommendation? Alderman Brown.
I so move.
Motion made by Alderman Brown. Alderman Tedder.
Second, Your Honor.
Seconded by Alderman Tedder. Neil, I'll let you start off with some discussion items.
Thank you, Mayor. The 7th Ward has actually been talking about this project since we came on board. They've elected this year to forego a majority of their MFT allowance in order to move forward with this project. There's several issues on the street with drainage, as well as most of the driveways have 6-inch curb in front of them, and most people have put 6-inch pipes in the gutter pan and paved over them, and the sidewalk is also kind of failing as a result of that and sinking. So there's a lot of issues along this road, and the 7th Ward is elected to focus most of their efforts on that. So we'll be looking at an estimate once we get a design as far as what this phase project will look like, but they wanted to move forward with the engineering on that this year.
Okay, thank you, Neil. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? Okay, roll call, please.
Adder.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Curtis.
Aye.
Cobb.
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Paul.
Aye.
Bafford.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Osinga.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Gall.
I believe I need to abstain.
Okay. Malone Marshall.
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
Motion carries. Item G for appointments, we don't have any for this evening. Under item 13, motions and resolutions, we will start with a proclamation declaring April 12th through the 18th, 2020 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. I think it's really important that we honor and recognize the good people that we have living and working and serving in the city of Kankakee. This would pertain to our 911 dispatchers. Jasmine and myself and Chief Schultz did go visit them last week and took them some lunch. As you all know, they work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year. They are the first responders. When you have an emergency, that's who you call. That's who you talk to on the other line. So I wanted to honor them, and I have a proclamation. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephoned the City of Kankakee's Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunications are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of CANCOM have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now therefore, I, Mayor Chastity Wells Armstrong, and the City Council of the City of Kankakee, Illinois, do hereby proclaim the week of April 12th through the 18th, 2020 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the City of Kankakee in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Adopted this 20th day of April 2020. May I have a motion to approve the proclamation? Alderwoman Malone Marshall.
So moved, Mayor.
Motion made by Alderwoman Malone Marshall. Alderwoman Lewis.
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Lewis. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Moving on to National Volunteer Week, I wanted to have a presentation in the council chambers to recognize volunteers from our community. As you all know, March is Women's History Month, and I honor usually 7 women. This month, I was planning to honor 7 men. However, we are now under COVID-19, so we will recognize them publicly at a later date, but I do still want to honor our volunteers. So this is for National Volunteer Week, April 19th through the 25th, 2020. Whereas 2.8 million Illinoisan volunteers give their time to help others, contributing 206.5 million hours per year. Whereas volunteers in the City of Kankakee mentor our children, feed our hungry, comfort our lonely, beautify our green spaces, and fundraise for our charitable organizations. And whereas City of Kankakee's volunteers are young, it says old, I'm going to say seasoned, families, workers, retirees, men and women of all ages and backgrounds. And whereas the collective result of the work done by our city's volunteers is that the City of Kankakee is a more desirable place to live. And whereas volunteers serve as youth coaches, youth mentors, victim advocates, hospital greeters, and in many additional capacities. And whereas organizations in the City of Kankakee that rely on volunteers include such fundamental organizations as Amita Health, St. Mary's Hospital, Riverside Medical Center, Harbor House, KC Casa, Fortitude Community Outreach, KCCSI, Merchant Street Music Festival, and many more. Now therefore, I, Mayor Chastity Wells Armstrong, and the City Council of the City of Kankakee, Illinois, do hereby proclaim the week of April 19th through the 25th, 2020 as National Volunteer Week in the City of Kankakee, and urge my fellow citizens to recognize the crucial role played by volunteers in our community. Adopted this 20th day of April 2020. May I have a motion to approve the proclamation? Alderwoman Malone Marshall.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Motion made by Alderwoman Malone Marshall. Alderwoman Gall.
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Gall. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, City Council. Item C, we have a reproclamation of declaration of local state of emergency. Alderman Crawford, I think this is what you were referring to. The statute states that I need to announce it April 15th and April 30th, the last day of the month. Our meetings don't quite coincide, so I'm reproclaiming from April 15th through the end of the month. And this is just procedural, so I'm just letting you all know that I'm continuing the proclamation that we are under a state of emergency, and that's consistent with Governor Pritzker's executive order. Item D, we have a resolution of inducement pertaining to the project for exit 312 on I-57 within the Eastport TIF district in the City of Kankakee, and I'm going to defer to Bert at this time to discuss this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very simple resolution that just says that we intend to use the $1.25 million and then to pay it back. And we have to do this resolution pursuant to section 1.150-2 of the U.S. Treasury regulations, talking about the reimbursement of expenses and costs back to a fund that we're taking it from. So this legitimatizes the taking of the funds from TIF 8 and moving it for purposes of the Ricky Rockets project. And this will allow us to put it back. The next resolution will do that.
Okay. Thank you, Bert. May I have a motion to approve the resolution? Alderwoman Swanson.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Alderwoman Swanson. Alderman Brown, I saw your hand.
I second that motion.
Seconded by Alderman Brown. Any discussion on that item? Okay. Roll call, please. Oh, excuse me. Alderman Curtis put his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a...
Hello?
Is there a timeline that we have to follow before it's got to be paid back? Is there a certain statute or anything, or are we got some flexibility there?
Yeah, good question. The next resolution talks about we have to pay it back within the current fiscal year. However, I didn't put it in this resolution, but for home rule, we do have flexibility to go beyond the year if we wanted. But Alderman Fafford asked an excellent question earlier today in regards to if we're going to pay this back during the current fiscal year, and it is our full intent to pay it back within 3 months when we pass bonds. So I just did the ordinance pursuant to the state statute, which says that when you do an interfund transfer of this sort, we'll pay it back during the current fiscal year. And to answer Alderman Fafford's question, in anticipation of the next resolution, since we're not using the money until sometime in May, it's the beginning of our next fiscal year. We have the whole year to pay it back. But again, it's our full intent to issue new bonds sometime, hopefully early July.
Did you get that, Alderman Curtis?
I did. Thank you. So in a sense, it'll be at this point until we change it April 30th of 2021 at this point.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, no funds will move before the end of the fiscal year. Okay. We had a motion in a second, right?
Yeah.
I made the motion.
Swanson made the motion and Brown seconded. Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I got one question.
Alderman Crawford.
Yes. Where are we projecting to pay this 1.2 million back? Are we paying for the general fund, or are we going to try to bond for it and pay for it out of a bond?
Yeah, I can answer that here, if I could.
Go ahead, Bert.
So, as I was going to say in my presentation of the actual development agreement itself, the of this whole agreement is
somebody's moving a lot and it's making a lot of noise. So if you can mute if you're not talking, please. Okay, Bert, go ahead.
We're not going to use any of the general funds. We're not going to use any of the funds, and we're going to use bond money. And the bond money, as I'll describe when I talk about the redevelopment agreement, hopefully we'll pay that back into TIF number 11 fund as we get increment and as the value of the property, the Ricky Rockets property, increases through the years. So that was the long answer. The short answer, no MST funds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Satter,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Lewis, Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Dahl. Aye. Law Marshall,
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Item E, resolution authorizing and providing for a not to exceed $1.25 million interfund loan from TIF District Number 8 to the East Court TIF District in the city of Kankakee County, Illinois. And I'll defer to Bert again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I referred to this in the prior questioning. This is the resolution which gives us the authority to make the interfund loan from TIF 8 to the general funds, in which we'll use $1 million to help fund the Ricky Rackets project, which I'll describe in a minute, and then $250,000 to cover engineering and other costs. Again, the 1.25 will be paid back as soon as we sell bonds for the new money, and we refinance come hopefully early July. So this is the official inducement resolution to allow the transfer.
However, the transfer is not taking place.
You're right. I'm sorry. I should have completed that. The transfer will not take place until sometime in May at the earliest. Again, when we do set up the construction escrow, which I'll talk about in the redevelopment agreement, it will not take place until the next fiscal year begins.
Okay. All right. May I have a motion to approve the resolution? Alderwoman Swanson.
That motion.
Motion made by Alderwoman Swanson. Alderman Tedder.
A second, Your Honor.
Seconded by Alderman Tedder. Any discussion? Roll call.
Tedder,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Top,
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Osenga. Osenga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Gall. Aye. Malone Marshall.
Aye.
Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Item F, resolution authorizing expenditure of city funds consistent with fiscal year 2019-2021. So as you all know, our fiscal year is ending on April 30th. We're starting a new fiscal year, May 1. It is not, since at least I've been here on council, we've always passed a continuing resolution, which allows us to continue paying our bills until we pass our budget for the next fiscal year. I will turn it over to Elizabeth at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution has been identically the same at least the 6.5 years that I've been the comptroller here at the city of Kankakee, and I believe it was the same many years prior to that. I would recommend this for approval this evening. The budget will be on target probably for a July date again. We have to have it passed by the second meeting in July, the end of July by statute. I will take every day I can get to analyze those revenues and trends as we are looking very closely at those this upcoming budget year due to the current circumstances.
Thank you, Elizabeth. May I have a motion to approve the resolution? Alderwoman Lewis.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Alderwoman Lewis. May I have a second? Alderman Tedder.
Second, Your Honor.
Seconded by Alderman Tedder. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Tedder,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Paul,
Aye.
Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson. Swanson.
Swanson.
Aye. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
No?
I had you muted. I knew you were moving, so wiggling around.
Crawford. Crawford. Thank you.
Aye.
Osinga.
Aye.
Thank you. O'Brien.
Aye.
Gall. Aye. Malone Marshall. Aye. True.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Next, item G, we have a resolution to obtain a permit from the Illinois Department of Transportation for the construction of a PCC commercial access interest for Dollar General, and I'm going to defer to Neil.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution that the city is required to pass in order for Dollar General to get their IDOT permit for their new entrance on West Jeffrey Street. It's merely a resolution acknowledging the application for the permit within the municipality's limits. So,
Mike Hoffman, did you have anything to add to that?
No, we're continuing to work through the process of getting their plat and site plan approved, and this is just a necessary piece of that effort. The plan's still moving forward and should be going sometime this summer, I would suspect.
Okay, thank you. All right, may I have a motion to approve? Alderwoman Swanson?
That motion.
Okay, motion made by Alderwoman Swanson. Alderman Fafford?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Fafford. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Pattern.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Curtis.
Aye.
Hobbs.
Aye.
Lewis.
Oh.
Aye. Thank you. Hall.
Aye.
Stafford.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Osinga.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Gall. Aye. Malone Marshall. Aye. Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Item H is a resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code for drainage and pavement improvements on Francine Drive from Webster Circle East to East Notre Dame Street. Neil, I'll defer to you again.
thank you, Mayor. This is just a resolution authorizing the MFT fund expenditure for the engineering agreement that was previously approved for the Francine Drive improvements.
Mike Hoffman, you have anything? No. Okay. May I have a motion to approve that resolution? Alderman Brown?
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Brown. May I have a second? Alderman Tedder.
Second, Your Honor.
Seconded by Alderman Tedder. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Pattern.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Curtis.
Aye.
Hobbs.
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Hall.
Aye.
Stafford.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Osinga.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Gall. Aye. Malone Marshall. Aye. Cruz.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Item I, motion to accept redevelopment agreement for Ricky Rockets Fuel Center project located at 2205 and 2225 East Court Street in the city of Kankakee, East Court TIF District. Everyone should have received the redevelopment agreement. I know there was an article in the paper that was a draft agreement that was provided to the city council and relevant department heads only. Yet it has managed to get into the newspaper. So I want to start out by saying, again, it was a draft. It was really important that you all, city council members, had a copy of the draft so that you could review it and ask us any questions or give us any input. Alderman Fafford did contact us today. I want to thank you, Alderman Fafford, for doing that, and Alderwoman Swanson as well. I was able to connect with you to get some clarification on your perspective on some matters. So this project started in 2016, and it failed in 2017. And I'm going to say that was a blessing. And being that we are living through COVID-19, a lot of us have been talking about faith and that seeing the good and bad situations. And though it sounds strange, I really view that this was a blessing in disguise. It was not a good deal for the city of Kankakee financially. We were going to give 50% of our sales tax revenues and our gaming revenues for 20 years back to this developer under the old agreement. Many people have spoken to me about the east side of Kankakee. That, as you all know, I grew up on the east side of Kankakee, so I've watched that part of the city decline. And I don't care where residents are from. I've talked to people from the 3rd Ward, from the 2nd Ward, from the 1st Ward. Everybody is concerned about exit 312 because that is the gateway entrance into our city. And when you come off exit 312, you see a cemetery and you see a large piece of land that has been undeveloped for years. So I made this a priority for this administration to work on this project. And I want to thank Bert. When they came on, when Odelson Stirk came on with the city of Kankakee, he knew this was a priority for me. I bugged him. He'll tell you I was a pain in the butt. He'll be nice, hopefully. And the Capitol team. And I want you all to know I work very closely with my team. I don't expect them to tell me what I want to hear. I expect them to give me their expertise, their perspectives, and they've done that. And we've had a lot of conversations. So I want to say, first of all, thank you, Bert, because Bert had a relationship with the developers team. He had some prior businesses, matters that he had addressed with them, so there was a familiarity there. They pretty much had given up on the city of Kankakee, and when Bert got on board, like I said, I started bugging him relentlessly that we have got to get this done. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank the Capitol team. They have been really patient. We have done a lot of brainstorming, trying to come up with different ways where we can get this done. I want to thank the Ward 7 City Council members, Senior Alderman Carl Brown and Alderman Tedder. They've come in for meetings with the Capitol team, with Bert. We've spent a lot of time just having conversations and keeping that communication open. Alderman O'Brien, I want to thank you as our Budget Committee Chair for this going to Budget Committee and us having a thorough discussion about it last week, allowing us to be able to vet through this. I want to say thank you for your leadership. And Alderwoman Swanson, you have been, I really appreciate you being available on that budget committee call, and just being able to allow me to talk with you and ask you questions about past practices in the city. So as I said, many conversations, many meetings, a lot of brainstorming. We've had a lot of doubters. We've had a lot of people give up on this project, give up on the city, give up on us as the ability to get this done. This process has taken 3 years. It takes time, but it was time that we needed, obviously, to be able to do this right. So the past 3 years, a lot of work went into this, and I just want to say that this is proof that when we work together, all of Kankakee benefits. This will benefit the entire city, the impression that this makes when people come into our community. So I want to thank you all for your leadership, for your insight, for asking questions, for sharing opinions and such. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Bert at this time. Oops, I muted you, Bert. Sorry. You're unmuted.
Thank you. I get muted by my wife all the time, so. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me thank a couple people too, because quite frankly, the last 4 days have been like 4 months.
Yeah.
And Mayor, you, Neil, Elizabeth, Mike Hoffman. I spoke to Alderman Tether and Alderman Brown on Friday. I left a message for Alderman Swanson. I've had conversations with Alderman Elzinga. I have answered all questions I possibly could answer. I welcome all questions. We worked very hard to get that draft on Friday. Since that first draft on Friday, you have before you the fifth draft. The fifth draft, because I've gone back and forth between Mike Hoffman and Neil and Elizabeth and the developer's attorney. all through Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and all day today, because we did a 25-page development agreement in basically 4 days. It really wasn't 4 days, because we've been, as you said, Mayor, from the time of my first interview with you, you told me that the Ricky Rockets project in the gateway to Kankakee was the primary goal of the administration. And I knew it was wearing on you, because you used to say to me, how is your family and your health? And then you used to say, what's new with Ricky Rockets? In the last few months, it's what's new with Ricky Rockets, Bert? And then you'd ask me about my health. So I really appreciate this project, because we've taken it from a very, very, very bad deal for the city to the point where we're spending no general funds. We're spending no MFT funds, which was a prime concern of course, Neil and of Elizabeth and a good number of the aldermen. We're going to fund this through refinancing of our bonds and through new money. And the new money, as some of you on the board who are in the financial market know, comes very cheap these days. And even though we may or may not have a problem with our bond rating, we're going to buy insurance and get through that and get a really good interest rate for the bonds we sell. And then we will immediately pay back TIF number 8 and make it whole again. And then put money into TIF 11 so we can fund the cost that we have at the city. Having said that, I don't want to go through the whole agreement, but I have about 8 or 9 points I just really have to highlight. And I'll go through it very quickly. The first 4 pages are all again, preliminaries, which were not found in your 2016 agreement, but preliminaries which we lawyers need to define the project, include what's in the project, and define terms. So if we ever have to take anything into court, it's already in the document. On page 5, I want to turn your attention to 4.3. And those of you who have done any type of contract before, you'll see the time of the essence clause. This time of the essence clause is not just a basic time of the essence clause, where that means we have to get this done quickly and time is important. I expanded on this section to make the developer's priority this project. And this developer has many projects throughout the United States, not just Ricky Rockets, but housing developments, gaming developments, all sorts of developments. We have put it into this language that this is his priority project. We have in here that there'll be a fuel center, a convenience store, a fast food restaurant, a car wash. All of that is contained as a bare minimum in the project. That is a very critical point in this contract. On page 6, under financing, under 5.1, again, some of the financial people and aldermen who have dealt with real estate on this board will know how important a construction escrow is. Something unique to a development agreement. Something that will help protect our money, whereby if you look at the bottom of page 6, 5.1, we're not just handing over $1 million. We're going to escrow that money and wait for them, Ricky Rockets, to escrow their commitment and their funds so that we know that they have the funds to build this project, which I'm told will be somewhere between $10 and $12 million. So this is a very critical and important part of this document to help protect the city. And you'll see that on page 6 and 7 in red. And the red portions mean that these are the changes that occurred since the first draft I sent the aldermen on Friday. These changes incorporate the developer's changes, my changes, Neil's changes, Mike Hoffman's changes, and the mayor's changes. Because the mayor has been on top of this from day one, and has been a part of me bothering her the whole weekend, again, disturbing her at home, as I bothered Elizabeth and Neil. If you look at page 7, point number 3, I want to specify, and that is that the developer is making his books open to us, and we will get the loan documents from the developer and from the bank or whatever institution he goes to prior to closing. So we're going to, it's not going to just be my eyes looking at these documents. He's putting in multi-million dollars of his own money, as well as going to the bank or wherever else he's going to go to get money, as well as our incentive money, which basically is a reimbursement for eligible costs. So all the items on page 7 are critically important. And if you turn to page 10, we talk about IDOT approval, and we have moved the approval process from the developer to us pursuant to Neil's suggestion. Neil's going to talk a little bit about that when I complete this, after Elizabeth gets done with what I think is the good stuff. Neil's going to talk about the procedural engineering stuff, and the IDOT approval is one of those things. If you turn to page 11, I wanted to make note that the signs that we're approving here are the same signs that the City Council and the Mayor approved in May of 2016. Mike Hoffman was very instrumental in calling my attention and Neil's attention to a number of issues with the signs. To his credit, Mike Hoffman got in the car and went out to Love's at 308 to take a look at their signs and sent me a memo. I don't know if it was yesterday or today, I can't remember, it's all mixed, talking about the signs at Love. We've already approved the signs. I really don't have any flexibility. They're going to need the signs. It's a number one issue for them because of where the property is tucked in under the expressway. You need signage to call attention to truckers who want to come off that expressway and go get their diesel and go eat, go gamble, and do whatever truckers do in the city of Kankakee. So we have to let them know far enough in advance before 3/12 that there is a tremendous truck stop there. That's why the signage is critically important to the development. So again, I want to thank Mike Hoffman for his input. Also on page 11, at the bottom of page 11, and this is a Neil thing a little bit and a little bit of mine, is we're going to have security put up for the public improvements, either by cash or bonds as our ordinances require. Again, maybe Neil can talk a little bit about that. On the next page, I talk about the hours of construction. They're not going to start any earlier than our code tells them they can start. And if we want something different, we'll tell them what time they can start, what time they have to end. Also on page 12, this was a matter of contention in the May 2016 agreement. There was a provision regarding that they could not appeal their taxes for 5 years. They wanted that out. The mayor wanted 10 years. They couldn't appeal their taxes. So we got back to the 5 years. So for 5 years, they cannot appeal their taxes. They're going to have this, all things equal, they're going to have this built in a year, and then increment will start building faster than any increment I've ever been associated with within the first year of the development. At the bottom of page 12, no sales tax sharing. Again, Elizabeth will talk about this. In your May 6, 2016 agreement, we shared 50-50 the sales tax, which would have been extremely detrimental to the city, which I'm sure Elizabeth's going to talk about. That's out. On page, I'm going to skip a whole bunch of stuff and all the indemnifications. Go to page 18. On page 18, a very important provision that's overlooked maybe, but maintaining records and right to inspect. We, the city, the smart people there, the Elizabeths and the Neils and the Mike Hoffmans, will be able to look and inspect their books as we go to see where they're at, what they're spending, and then once they're open, how much they're taking in relation to what we're going to get. Very important provision, as you will see as we go. The page 24, 14.21, the repealer. This repeals the May 16th, 2016 agreement, which also includes the repeal of the 50-50 split on gaming because of the interest in gaming, especially by troopers at these things, and the fact that they'll have at least 60 machines. As Elizabeth will tell you, the $90,000 a year she anticipates as our share is conservative. It will probably be more, and it doesn't have to be split. That is a synopsis of the agreement. I just wanted to stress again before I turn it over to Elizabeth with all the good numbers to tell you, and again, I'm not trying to talk her up because she's the boss, but the mayor has been a leader and a quarterback for this proposition and has pushed me to get this to where it is today. It is not to my credit, it is to the team's credit. This is truly a team effort. I could not have done this without the mayor, Neil, and Elizabeth and Mike. So with that, Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to Elizabeth, let her do her presentation,
Okay.
let Neil chime in, and then take questions, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Thank you, Bert. Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple key points. We went over a lot of this in the budget committee, but I have a couple other things to add and elaborate on based off of things that Bert said and things that we talked about at the budget committee. First and foremost, I've always been a big advocate of timing, and the timing, to reiterate what the mayor said, the timing of this is critical because this deal, looking back, I was here for it. Several of you were here for it. Very early on in Mayor's administration, she challenged me to it and said, Elizabeth, I mean, why would we do that? And having lived through the sales tax litigation situation, I just explained simply that, different lenses, different time, and all those types of things. The mayor said, Elizabeth, this is not a good deal for the city of Kankakee. We have to renegotiate these terms. We have to relook at this. And, we were hoping that the deal was still alive at that point. It died shortly thereafter. But now that we've been able to come back to the table, and thanks to a lot of great negotiation on Bert's part, a lot of wonderful brainstorming ideas by the team, and that constant push by the mayor to remind me, Elizabeth, do you remember what I told you when I first came on about that agreement? And I said, yes, I do. We have been able to come to what we have tonight. My first major point is that this agreement, because of the restructuring with keeping all of the sales tax, with keeping all of the gaming revenue, is between $5 to $6 million in addition to what we would have. That's $5 to $6 million more conservatively from the sales and gaming agreement from over the 20 years from what we would have been receiving. That is a lot of money, and that is a completely conservative estimate at this point in time. All of these numbers that I have ran are very, very conservative and have been looked at and analyzed by other folks, and everyone believes that my numbers are conservative, and I'm good with that. During this time of the unknown, shrinking revenues, I'm on a conference call this week, how do we anticipate what's coming down the pike? We are, it is a critical situation. We are adding revenues. I mean, we are adding major revenues to the tune of $450,000 per fiscal year, of which half of it's going to go to the general fund and half of that's going to go to our pensions, which so critically need the money. And that leads me into point number 3, is that because of the hard decisions you all have made, because of that 2% sales tax, this agreement now is able to capitalize upon that. And we are able to give, in very conservative estimates, an additional $250,000 to these pension funds that so desperately need our commitment and that we are mandated to pay, with our state mandates and such, to keep those commitments to our public safety officers. So those 3 points to me are the summary. Obviously, I did a quick analysis for 4 years, it's $2 million. It's just a lot of money for our city, $450,000 minimum per year, additional revenues. In my opinion, it checks all the boxes.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
And then I will turn it over to Neil.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I want to reiterate, how steadfast the mayor was on this negotiation and getting a good deal for the city. I think the way it kind of fizzled out probably played to our favor and allowed us to negotiate a little tougher than maybe we would have in a different scenario. So, I had suggested we're looking at all funding options in the beginning of how we could come up with contributions to this development. Obviously, MFT would have been an eligible funding source for the road. The mayor pushed back on that because she knows that we need those monies for maintenance and the ward. So she really fought to keep MFT out of this deal. But at the beginning, we were really looking at all funding options for this. So really the city's contribution will be towards the improvements for Northeast Drive, which will be the public road portion of the development. It will also include the detention improvements at the north side of the road. It's also going to include, at the same time, the extension for the connection of that road to Eastgate Parkway, which is the cul-de-sac up there, which IDOT was going to require that the city connect within the first 4 to 5 years anyway. So we're addressing that issue as well. So that won't become an issue during the interchange improvements when access control is broken. So in regards to the IDOT permitting, we've been having conversations all weekend. The developer thought, given the rapid time frame of this deal and the parameters set in this deal, that their financing might be a hang up since they don't have their final IDOT permitting in hand. So given the city is going to construct the road, we just said we would take over getting the final approvals on that road with IDOT, and that way that releases their issue with their banks as far as having outstanding permits. So since the city is going to manage and construct the road, there really was no issue to take over that portion of the permitting process. So aside from that, we'll be also constructing the roadway improvements as well as any storm sewer that was originally designed to go under the road to service the development as well as future lots. So that's the gist of what we're doing. There was also no roadway lighting included in their original plans. However, when I came on as city engineer, these plans were already approved. So we really didn't have an avenue to require roadway lighting. That will be included in these new improvements. We feel it's important for the residents over there to feel safe walking over there, and will-lit areas will provide and enhance public safety as well. So I think that's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Neil. Mike Hoffman, I wanted to give you an opportunity as well if there was anything you wanted to add.
Just the only thing I can think of that's important to also mention is that improvement of East Ridge Drive, the Eastgate Parkway, I think is going to be really critical to spurring some additional development in that industrial park up there. You're going to give much more direct access to the close to 300 acres of vacant land up there that's waiting for development that's in our new TIF. And so not only are we getting the benefit of the Ricky Rockets, but I think we're going to give us a good jump start on economic development and the rest of that business part.
Okay. All right. Before I ask for a motion, I just again want to thank you guys. This team does not work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. As Bert mentioned several times, we have been working all weekend to just brainstorm and finalize the agreement and make sure all the issues are addressed and that we're doing everything we can to protect the city. And, that was Elizabeth coming in on Saturday doing analysis, and, Neil's been on the phone. Mike Hoffman was on, going back and forth with emails and preparing memos all weekend. So I just want to thank you guys in particular for the work that you've done and the commitment that you've shown to the project.
Mayor, it's Bert again. Before you ask for just a couple other things, Elizabeth touched on it, but I need to emphasize that the number of $246,000 a year is going to go into our pension funds. That is a huge number and takes the burden off the backs of the taxpayers. The taxpayers won't have to pay for that. and of course, it helps our pensioners so greatly. I know Alderman Pfaffer has always been very interested in the pension funds, and that's $246,000 conservatively that will be able to fund the pension, and another $226,000 that we'll be able to put into the general fund. And again, Elizabeth's estimates are conservative. I just want to throw out one more other girl to you, Mayor. The 50-50 split, again, doing away with that was your doing. No MFT funds, even though Neil came up with that thought initially, you were able to turn us away from that. And the fifth, and we're not going to have to use any general fund money because of the ability to refund bonds and do new bonds. The other factor that I didn't talk about is that our property taxes that we receive in the city for that parcel is only $9,250 a year. That's it. So what that means is, as they build an $8, $9, $10 million project on that property, and because we're keeping all of the increment tax dollars, we're going to have millions of dollars, God willing, in that TIF 11 fund to help develop more of TIF 11 and maybe help other areas of the city as we go. One last thing, and Elizabeth touched upon it. She estimated about $2.1 million in revenues over 4 years. If you times that by 5, which is 20 years, which was the initial agreement, that's $10.5 million that we do not have to share at all. Okay.
You done?
I'm done.
We're a little excited if you guys can't. We're a little excited. So may I have a motion to accept the redevelopment agreement for Ricky Rockets Fuel Center project located at 2205 and 2225 East Court Street in the City of Kankakee, East Court TIF District. May I have a motion? Alderman Tedder.
I happily make that motion, Your Honor.
Motion made by Alderman Tedder. Alderman Brown.
I'd be glad to second that motion.
Seconded by Alderman Brown. Any discussion? Alderman Osinga.
Yeah, Mayor, excuse me. Do we have any idea how many jobs are going to be created in this new project and what kind of wages are going to be paid?
That is a real good question. I glossed over that, but
hey, I have some numbers. It's Barbie.
Barbie has some numbers. Go ahead, Barbie.
Yeah, just talking to them, the gas station and car wash will have about 20 full-time to part-time jobs. Not really sure. Every fuel center has a different ratio of full-time, part-time jobs, but that's what they're looking at. And then the restaurant, for the fast food restaurant, will bring an additional anywhere from 20 to 40 jobs. And they also could decide later on to have a diner there too. So that brings on more jobs too. And most of those will be at minimum wage, except for, of course, their manager jobs. And we're still talking to them about the dollar amounts and what that looks like. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And that does not count construction jobs, Alderman Osinga.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't count.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have an analysis there. Alderman Osinga, did you have anything else?
No, thank you. Maybe I could go out there and get a job.
You don't need a job. You got a job. Alderman Tall. Hold on a minute. Let me
Okay. I just heard you mention the construction jobs. Hopefully these will be local construction companies. They'll be paying prevailing wages, and that they will look at training some of the people in our community so that, we can get some jobs from here instead of outside of the city of Kankakee and the county of Kankakee.
That is a priority. We are always having those conversations that we want them to hire locally, that we want them to utilize workforce training programs. So thank you for bringing that up, Alderman Tall.
Madam Mayor?
I think, hold on. I see you, Alderman O'Brien. Bert, and then I'll get to you, Alderman O'Brien.
I just wanted to answer Alderman Tall. I can't pinpoint where it is, but yes, there'll be union jobs, and they will be as local as they possibly can make it, and they will. It's to their benefit to use as local as they possibly can. And I have something in this agreement. I can't tell you where, but they didn't change it at all. But it talks about jobs. And there will be, there's also room for expansion besides the fast food establishment. We're also in discussions about a breakfast establishment. Now, that's not in these plans at all. That's to come, but they have plenty of room on this property to do that. And
and it's needed on that side of town for sure.
Yes, ma'am. And very much in discussion with breakfast facility.
Alderman O'Brien, I want to get to you. Go ahead. Uh-oh.
Obviously, the city's
Start
putting
over,
in.
Alderman O'Brien, you were muted.
Okay, thank you. This, in my opinion, is a good deal for the city and the taxpayers. We're investing $2.2 million of city funds, getting an immediate return of a $10 million investment into the city, not to mention additional revenues, as Elizabeth and Bert and you have others have mentioned. So I think that's a good thing. I also want to jump on the comments regarding the support of the pension fund. That's a huge deal, and anything we can do like this, $250,000 per year conservatively, is a great thing. So for a lot of reasons, I think this is a good deal. One piece of feedback I received today in the afternoon was maybe we can do a subsequent community benefit agreement with the developer, talking about some of the things that Alderman Tall mentioned. Bert talked about local labor, local support for the community. I think this is a great start. We've kind of begun to address those things, but I thought that was a good point I hadn't thought of, so I wanted to share with the group here tonight. So thank you.
Alderman Tedder and Alderman Brown, we've discussed that in the meetings that we've had with them individually and with the developer community benefits agreement. So it's on the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Alderman Crawford.
Yes, I'd like to also piggyback on what Mike said. Them were some of my concerns also. But then also for me, a big part of this thing was on page 7, 5.2, where the developer, not only were we putting our money in escrow, but he was having to put his money in escrow, to where it makes a really nice check and balance situation. But I did have one other question for Bert.
Yes, sir.
After studying this for about 3 hours, if you go to page 10, let me see here. Page 10, item B, it says the city of Kankakee agrees to provide all stormwater detention that is required due to the development of the ownership and the operation of this project and the parcels. I looked up the parcels for the basins and all of that. Is that something that the city is going to be responsible for, or is that something that the developer is going to be responsible for to set up the basins and the retentions?
If I could, Mayor, can I kick this? Can I punt this?
Yeah, I was going to have Neil address it as well, but go.
Neil?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, there is a city-owned parcel up there, just southeast of that dedicated right-of-way where the road curves to the east, Alderman Crawford. And there is the original development plan showed that being constructed on a city parcel. So the original development, the city was going to own and maintain that detention basin as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Alderman Curtis.
On their financing that they're working on, is there an outside date or when they think they will get the financing in place on their end, or is there an outside date in this provision of if they don't or something of that nature? Hopefully they do. I'm hoping it's like next week, but I'm just curious. Obviously banks are moving a little slow with all the other stuff they're doing with PPP and stuff.
Mayor, if I can answer?
Yes, Bert.
They have already begun in discussions with their bank I think after I let them know tonight or tomorrow morning, I think this will be in a matter of a couple of weeks. They're anxious to do this. We moved up, as I said, as their priority. We're kind of in a little bit of a race with Hickory Hills, although they intend to do both projects at the same time. I pushed this as hard as I did because in Hickory Hills, they still have to demolish the old Lexington house off of 95th and the Tollway. So they're behind where we are. We have ground ready, basically, to start construction. I believe they'll have their financing within the next 14 days to go with this. Of course, the aldermen who were in finance understand why they wanted $1 million up front and the $1.2 million, which is the cost of the road, because that's used as an equity base to get the rest of their financing, along with the cash that the developer is putting in himself. So, Alderman Crawford, you're very correct. The escrow agreement is something very unusual in development agreements, usually found, as I'm sure Alderman Curtis will tell you, in major construction contracts where everybody has to ante up, so to speak, and then they start taking money out of the construction escrow. This was a bit unusual, but I felt very, very important considering we're playing with city money. So I hope that's a long answer to your question, but I think we'll have this very quickly. We're pushing.
And then one last question I had.
Okay, go ahead, Alderman Curtis.
Sorry. I see on 8.10, there's the no city fuel tax. That doesn't waive our current fuel tax, correct?
No, in fact, we went back and forth, and that's a.
And is there an outside date on that, or is that for the life of the project?
Okay, that's a really good question.
What page were we on?
We're on page 16, section 8.10.
Yeah, page 16.
16, thank you.
Section 16, 8.10. This was in the prior agreement, but what I got them to add today is you'll see in the second sentence it says, and whichever is later, the city covenants and agrees to not enact any new municipal motor fuel tax affecting the subject property. Doesn't affect sales tax. It affects motor fuel tax, which is very popular in Cook County. Many municipalities are doing 3 cents, 5 cents, and 6 cents on top of it. What he told me today, the developer told me today, is this goes well, and down the road, if our neighbors in Bradley were home rule, some type of tax, they would be open to just stay competitive with our neighbors. And that's the reason this is in here, to be competitive with our neighbors and not below our neighbors, so the truckers don't stop in Bradley or stop, in Champaign, Springfield, or before.
Okay, but we'll still be based on what we're as of, I'll call it today.
Yes, sir.
The motor, our taxes as of today. Okay, thank you.
That's 3% basically, 2% and 1%. Yes.
Thank you.
That's right.
Any other, Alderman Tatter?
Thank you, Jan. I'll be very brief. First of all, this has been a long haul, and I want to honestly thank you, Mayor. It's not political. This is sincere. You did not give up on this project, and you did not. And there was some of us that thought that this would not happen, and the East Side. It's not an East Side 7th Ward or any of that. It's good for the city. I mean, it's great. I'm just glad to see I'm certain Carl and we've been peppered with questions about the Rickety Rockets. There's been jokes made about it, and to see that this has moved speaks to the tremendous professionalism and thoroughness of this entire capital team that you've assembled. What I'm most taken by is that this almost represents half the operating budget. Think about this for a moment. It's this one project is almost half of our city's operating budget. That's pretty interesting, and it's the largest project to date that I've been involved in over here on the East Side. And I just want to thank you, along with the capital team and the aldermen, for supporting this effort. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call.
Hatter,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Cobb,
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Hall,
Aye.
Stafford,
Uh-oh, hold on. Stafford,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Crawford. Crawford,
Alderman Crawford, can you, there you go.
Aye.
thank you. Osinga,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Hall. Aye. Malone Marshall. Aye. Cruz. Cruz,
Aye.
thank you. 14 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion
Thank you all.
carries. Congratulations, City Council.
Thank you.
Okay. Bert, you earned your keep on that one.
Thanks, Mayor.
All right, we have no need to go into an executive session. Item 14. Item 15, no action, of course, resulting. Item 16, city council comments. I've muted you guys because we've been picking up background noise, so if you can raise your hand, I'll unmute you if anybody has any comments. Okay, Alderman O'Brien, you are not muted, Alderman O'Brien. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a comment for the council members. We have May 1st in our city ordinance where we reorganize the committees. As far as I know, we've not had much discussion about that. I would propose for your consideration that we just maintain the current committee structure for another year, something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. Alderman Curtis, did you have your hand up? Yes, unmute yourself. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Yes. Mayor, I'd like to thank you. On Friday, I saw you delayed the licenses for restaurants, bars of that nature till June 30th, I believe. On that question, I think that's a good thing because they'll be closed for over 6 weeks by the end of this month, and it's probably it's going to be longer. I hope we get back open, but it's trending that it's going to go farther. For the people that have paid or just paid last week, is there a way to hold their payments to give them a break till June 15th? Because there were some people that paid on Wednesday thinking they had to be in on the 15th, but then they didn't hear the delay till Friday. And they're all struggling right now. Some of them are just trying to keep some employees paid with their other money. They're trying to pay other bills. They're not asking for any abatement. They're not asking for a pro rata share. They're just asking for time to pay their other bills until they can get back open to earn some dollars and stuff. And it's I know it's lots of businesses are that way, but there's several people I know that paid this past week hoping there would be a delay, but it didn't happen until Friday, which is there a way to help them that paid in the last 3 or 4 days?
Okay. Wow, I don't know why the phone is ringing. I'll respond back to that. Anybody else? Alderwoman Swanson?
I have a question for Chief Cosman. Is he still on?
Chief Cosman, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. I just had an incident at the credit union, and the police officer that responded, nothing went wrong or anything, but he didn't have any protective gear on, no mask, no gloves. I didn't know if any of your guys were doing that, or I just thought it was odd that he had nothing on. I didn't know if the police officers were having to wear masks or anything. Just think it's kind of a good idea, especially you don't know what kind of situations you're getting into to protect themselves, if nothing else. It's just a question. I'm not being critical. A question of whether you're having people have the officers wearing protective gear.
we have passed out the PPEs to all the officers where they have them. And we don't have it's not mandatory that they wear them. It's encouraged that they wear them when they have incidents. We use a lot of phones for handling reports, and we try to keep it to the minimum of the actual close in contact. So, but I haven't made it mandatory where they wear them at all times.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Swanson. Anybody else? Alderman Crawford.
Yes, I kind of want to weigh in with what Chris Curtis said too. I had quite a few constituents that called that also came in and paid for their license on Wednesday and were asking the same questions if the city of Kankakee was going to hold their checks until the end of the month, until the end of June, or if we were going to give them some time to get open and get some money in the coffers so they could pay their bills and everything also. So if we could have some clarification on that to where we can tell some of our constituents, that would be great.
Anybody else? Mike, Alderman Cobbs.
Thank you, Mayor. I have many calls, and I talked to Pete Shield about bulk pickup and yard waste. We do understand that there's a PSA, but there's different rumors going around that they're not going to do it at all this season. Can I get some clarification on that, on yard pickup and bulk waste pickup? Is Pete there?
Yeah. Just quick feedback. Bradley Bourbonnais went offline with the bulk pickup and yard waste 2 weeks ago. So Republic is starting with them this week. So we have a little bit of a latency with our startup. So sounds like possibly next Monday or the Monday after, things will go back online for the city of Kankakee.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on to department heads, I'm going to start with Barbie.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything except for just to remind of the Economic Development Committee that we will meet in a Zoom meeting on Thursday. And I will send you that email with the link tomorrow to that. And Zoom economic development update. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamora?
No, I don't have anything.
Welcome back. I know you were out last week.
Yes, thank you.
Chief Cosman.
The only thing I want to thank you and the council members. We picked up our 3 new squads this week, so we're working on getting them all outfitted, and they should be on the street in a couple of weeks now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chief. James?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Elizabeth?
I have nothing at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Chief Schultz? Chief Schultz?
He may have left. There's a fire in town, so he's...
Lord. Okay. He's out. Okay. Steve Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. Everything's going at the library about the same as it was since I reported last at the previous meeting.
Okay. Jasmine. I know they can't. Are you in? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank the team.
I don't know where it's picking it up from.
I'm echoing because we're in the same room. So I just wanted to thank the team. Thank you.
Thank the team with the technology. Okay, she's thanking everybody for working with her on the technology. Thanks, Jasmine. Mike Hoffman.
Thanks, Mayor. Only thing to do would be to give the council a heads up that we have got 2 additional craft growers that have applied for conditional use applications, and another gentleman is said that he's going to submit an application in the near future. So we'll be seeing some more of those in the coming months.
Thank you. Chris?
Nothing, Mayor.
Okay. Maureen on?
I'm on. I think.
Okay. Neil?
Thank you, Mayor. This Friday, we have the bid opening, the Safe Routes to School project. That's a state letting. So we'll know the results of that Friday around noon. And then we're still working the training program with all the respective boards. That we're getting close. I think there's a few of you. We just got to finalize your list. So if you got a list out there, and we've got the cost to you, if you could just get back to us shortly, we'd like to have that on the first meeting in May for approval to get that out to bid this summer while fuel prices are low, so we can take advantage of that. And then I think that's about it for now. A lot of our other projects are just kind of in progress. So.
Thank you. And Pete?
Any technology questions in this format, please reach out to Jasmine and I. Jasmine, we've been working pretty diligently with department heads and aldermen and things of that nature. So feel free. We'd be glad to meet you in the chambers and do a walkthrough with anybody. So please reach out.
Was this a better format for everybody? It seems like everybody could hear everybody. Okay, we will stick to this format. Did I get all of the department heads?
Mayor, I have one more thing.
Yes, Bert.
I'm sorry.
No,
I found it in the agreement. If I don't have to have everybody look at it right now, but if you want to look at pages 16 and 17, your agreement, which is section 9, which is the affirmative action provision, the non-discrimination provision, the Illinois Workers on Public Works Act, and the Prevailing Wage Act. It's a whole section on that. That again is not usual in redevelopment agreements, but was put into the to the credit of the developer, not touched at all. So it's really an excellent provision. Okay.
Thank you. Mike McGrath, you have anything?
Covered everything. Glad the agreement was passed, and nice to hear from everyone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll move on to my updates. I sent these out on Friday about 5 o'clock. Of course, I'm continuing to follow the governor's lead in terms of social distancing and making sure that we encourage people to wear masks. I'm glad Alderwoman Swanson brought that up. I think it's really important if you're going to be around other people to have a mask on. We have not mandated it, but we definitely recommend it. I did move the State of the City address to May 28th just because I am anticipating that we are not going to come off the shelter-in-place order by the end of the month, so I moved it to the last Thursday of May, which is May 28th. In terms of public meetings, again, I want to thank Pete, Jasmine, Mike Hoffman's been our tutor and making sure that we are set up for remote access and to use technology for meetings. I reminded you all that their statement of economic interest is due the end of the month. In terms of the deadlines, I'm just going to say that I've been very clear on where I stand with the liquor licenses. I had one person contact me, so everybody in the city knows that I'm the liquor commissioner, and one person contacted the office. With that being said, I had talked to Alderwoman Swanson, I talked to Alderman Osinga, I've talked to several of the other aldermen. And indicated that I was going to extend it. Nobody reached out to me and said, proposed a date in terms of any of the license holders. So I haven't heard from any of them. So I would encourage you all to direct them to contact me directly. And the goal of this is not to harm anyone. So I'm willing to work with anyone. But if their checks have already been processed, I'm not going to unprocess their checks. That just doesn't make sense to me. But if they need to work, they need some other accommodation, they certainly can contact Lynn and we will work with them. The goal is to help everybody. So please direct them directly to me. I know people were calling Elizabeth. Elizabeth is not the liquor commissioner. We had city council members calling her. She doesn't, this is not what she does. So please direct them to me. Also, with that being said, people were asking about vehicle stickers, which I'm not at this time planning to postpone. And just so you all know, as I stated in the updates, the stimulus checks were mailed last week. I know people were receiving those. And I know that people that are drawing unemployment some were eligible for up to a $600 additional federal allotment on their unemployment. So, I think it's important that as we have conversations with people, we let them know we're not collecting this money just to collect the money. I know Manteno did away with their license fees, but we are a very different community than Manteno. And we do use a significant portion of those revenues to support our general fund budget. So I would appreciate you all support and making sure that we educate the community about that. I think that's it. Jasmine has been posting resources for business owners and for residents, and we will continue to do that. And then the last thing I had on my list was Ricky Rockets, which we've taken care of tonight. So again, I want to thank you all for your work, especially those Capitol team members that have been working all weekend to get everything finalized. So without anything further, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Alderman Brown.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Brown. Alderwoman Gall, I saw your hand. Seconded by Alderwoman Gall. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Stay safe and be well.
Thank you, Mayor.
I mean, stop trying to act like y'all the heroes.